Welcome back to Bits and Boards. I'm Anthony Krolikowski, and today we're going to continue up a conversation I had with Roblox about their safety and this new stance that they have. But it's not just going to be Roblox here. It's going to be the wide picture when it comes to video games and what parents should know, and when you have your kids on these games, what maybe they should know, the whole big picture. Roblox is just one game that your kids are probably playing because it's free, right? But there's a lot more in the whole overarching conversation. So joining me today is Aubrey Quinn. And just first, tell us about this group that you're a part of and kind of your accolades here and your expertise.
Yes, thanks for having me. Happy holidays. I work for the Entertainment Software Association, and we are the trade group that represents the U.S. video game industry. So I think I have the coolest job in the world. My kids definitely think Mom has the coolest job in the world. So I get to work with U.S. video game creators, publishers, developers, and my responsibility is to talk to people, whether it's policymakers, regulators, legislators, media, parents, about video games and the enormous benefits that the U.S. gaming industry has right here in our country on the economy, literally in every state, including New York, but also the power of play and the positive benefits of games on our emotional, social, and mental well-being.
With the time that it is right now, just tell me about why these conversations around video games and kids is perfect. It's the holiday season, and I'm sure for many kids, video games are number one for what they're looking for. I know when I was a kid, Pokemon was the big thing for the holidays.
I love that. And Pokemon is still big for a lot of kids and a lot of families. But yes, you are right. Video games are one of the most requested items by kids every holiday season. This year is no exception. We know that about 3 in 5 kids are asking for video games this holiday season. They want something related to video games under the tree and from mom and dad. And so I really like at this time as parents, or this time of year, as parents are considering what to buy, or grandparents are asking, what can I get the grandkids? To remind them that video games are good. I know that we can be concerned about, in-game interactions or in-game purchases or just general kids' online safety, which I totally understand as a mom myself, but there are so many great tools and resources available to parents. And so you can take advantage of all those benefits of play and keep your kids safe online. You don't have to choose one or the other.
Video games here being in the online space, as I told you off camera, when I was a kid, the DS had online capabilities, but nothing compared to what is out there today. And why should parents want to take an interest first in just what their kids are doing online and the dangers that they could face?
Yeah, well, online world is not that different from the in-person real world. And all of us who are parents know that we want to keep our kids safe. We take a lot of measures and precautions to keep our kids safe. And anywhere your kids can interact with strangers, adults, whether that's at school, on a playground, at the mall, at a coffee shop, we want to make sure our kids understand how to interact with strangers, what red flags to look for, when to go to a trusted adult for help. And those are the same conversations parents are having today with their kids when they start interacting with other people online. The difference between in-person and online interactions is if a strange older man walks up to my 12-year-old daughter, she knows he is a strange older man. But if someone approaches you online, whether it's in a chat room, whether it's on social media, they might say they are one person and when in fact they're another person. And so kids have to be extra cautious online, and parents have to take that step to teach their kids about online safety and online expectations. But one thing as the video game industry has been long committed to and long prioritized is giving parents resources and tools so they can know what their kids are doing and help keep their kids safe online. It can be overwhelming to be a parent in this digital age, and which is why the industry is so committed to providing these tools and resources and information so parents know what their kids are playing and have the tools they need to feel better about their kids playing games online.
Going into what kids are probably playing on. So, for example, we have our consoles, and there's the tablets, and that whole string or slew of options here.
Yes.
Touching on consoles, though. Now, just maybe we want to touch on a specific one here, not all of them, but if we can, that's perfectly fine. That's great. But just say someone has Nintendo and on your Switch 2 or your Switch 1 or your Switch Lite, because there's a bunch of them, there is the parental settings. Can you kind of walk me through, how those work or when it comes to Nintendo or any of these consoles, how parents can set this up and what they should be looking out for?
Absolutely. So you are right in that you can play video games on pretty much any device. I love that the democratization of video games and accessibility when you can play on your cell phone, your smartphone, which you probably have, a tablet, PCs, right? So you can virtually play video games anywhere. But traditionally, and still today, there are consoles that parents can buy and have in their homes. And you mentioned the Nintendo Switch. The Switch 2 came out this year. It's been incredibly popular. The PlayStation 5 is the latest generation of PlayStation that's still on the market. And then there is the Xbox. And so if you have one of those consoles at home, make sure you have parental controls set up. We know that about 1 in 3 kids is asking for a console this holiday season. So maybe you are one of those parents who's buying a console or buying the next generation of console. When you do that, here's my number one piece of advice. Parents, sit down with your kids and set up that console together. Everyone can have an individual game profile. Think about it the same way if you have a streaming account and there are a couple different accounts and you can set parental settings within your Netflix or your Amazon Prime, right? So with the parental controls, when you set those up for your kids' player profile, use their right birthday. If you're concerned about privacy, choose a different month, choose a different day, but make sure you choose the right year. And this is so critical because so many of these consoles and gaming platforms have default settings for the younger players. And when you use parental controls across the device, you can limit and can block games that are too mature content-wise for your kids. So age ratings come into play. You can limit the amount of time they play and what time of day they play. You can also put limits or blocks on in-game spending. So if you don't want your kids to spend money within a game, you can shut that down or you can set it up so they have to ask permission to spend money in a game. And then also you can block or limit in-game player-to-player communication. This one is so important to me personally. I have older boys who are at college. My youngest daughter is 12. She's still at home. My older boys are 21. They watch whatever movies they're going to watch. They play whatever games they're going to play. I have a little more control over what my 12-year-old is doing. And I'm not ready for her to talk to strangers online. She's not ready to talk to strangers online. So I approve every single person she communicates with across those 3 different platforms. What's great about that is that she can play with her big brothers who are out of college across the country. And it is so much more fun for them to play games together than me to force them to, talk once a month on an awkward phone call. They love playing games together. It keeps them really close. But I don't let her talk to strangers online because I'm personally not ready for that. So I've set the rules, but then I set up the parental controls and I don't have to worry about her interacting with strangers on the internet. So if you're getting a console this holiday season, please use parental controls. Make sure you have those settings set up in the way that makes the most sense for your family, your kids, and your gameplay rules.
Going back to those ratings that you mentioned for games, because not just these parents are buying consoles, right? They're also buying games, or maybe they just have their phone that they pass to their kid, and those games have ratings with them. Explain the system for me, the ESRB, and kind of those ratings that come up, and what parents can know when they are looking for a game. And maybe they're looking at a shelf. I know when I was 16 or so, and I wanted Bayonetta as a kid, which is a very mature game, but it was a whole lot of fun. And my parents, they saw the rating. I had them go in and get the game for me. They knew, but maybe not every parent knows about that, and not every kid should be maybe playing Bayonetta, even though it is very fun.
Yes, no judgment there. But good news for parents is that the Entertainment Software Rating Board, or ESRB, has been rating video games for over 30 years. They are an independent rating body. They aren't influenced by anyone, and they assign ratings to video games based on content. So E, if you see an E rating, E means E for everyone. This is essentially like a G-rated movie. E for everyone, anyone can play this game. E10 plus means everyone 10 and older, so it's slightly more mature content. Maybe there's animated fighting, a little bit more mature subject matter. T is T for teen. So those are teens and older. And then M is for mature. Those are the comparable to R-rated movies. And so if you don't let your kids watch R-rated movies yet, I don't recommend getting M-rated games, but you can easily find out online or on the ESRB website. ESRB also has an app. You can just search the name of the game that your kids might be requesting, and you can then see why that video game got that specific rating. Listen, all of us have different rules and different guidelines in our home. Our kids are different ages. Some kids are more mature. Older kids are a little more immature. And or we have different religious beliefs, cultural expectations. There are a lot of reasons why games are appropriate for some families, not others. We are never here to judge. We're just here to provide information so parents can do what's best for them. And so you can look at those ESRB content ratings and decide based on E10 plus, T, M for mature, if they're right for your kids or not. The other thing that ESRB has started doing, as you mentioned, games have changed a lot since you were playing on DS. But they also let you know if a game has interactive elements. So when you look at the rating on the game or on a digital storefront, you will not only see that age rating, you will also see if there are in-game purchases allowed or if there's user interaction, which means players can communicate with other players. So when you're making that decision, even though the content might be age appropriate, you might not be ready for them to play with other people. And so that's just a good flag right at the, point of purchase that you should set up parental controls on that specific game.
That's a good point there too, because I remember going back to those days and on the bottom of my screen, it would say contents online not rated by the ESRB. And nowadays we have things like the Discord and the other chat softwares. And maybe as parents, you're like, okay, well, I've set up this rule in my system settings for Nintendo or whatever it may be, but there is those other apps, whether it be on your kid's phone or your kid's computer or even built in with things like the PlayStation. So just give me some examples of some of those online chat softwares like Discord. And, parents have parental accounts that they can put on those as well, and how that works and just how big of something like this is for parents and why they should be, worried or just play an active part in that.
Yeah, I think playing the active part is really the right way to characterize it. So video games are a social activity, from when they first came to the United States and people were going to arcades and playing together and getting the high score, or whether we had the original consoles in our home, we'd invite our friends over and we'd pass the controllers around, or play two-person cooperative games. Even now, it might seem like your kid is spending a lot of time alone on video games. I am telling you, if you go into that room and listen, chances are they are playing with their friends. During COVID, my kids, we had shut down and the kids were home from school, and that's the way they played with all their friends. And even now, my boys who are in college across the country, their friends spread out across the country, they get online, and they play together with their friends. And that's much easier than, when I went to college and all we had was AOL Instant Messenger, right? So it's such a social thing. Some of the games have in-game communications, meaning within the platform, within the game, you're staying within that system and you're talking to friends. More and more people are going offline to have those conversations. So they might be using Discord, which is really a social media platform, which was originated to allow gamers to connect and talk about their game experience. They might be watching live streams on Twitch. They might be watching some of their favorite players live on YouTube streaming. Or even in some cases, they're being, asked to let's chat about this on FaceTime or let's chat about this on text or WhatsApp while we're doing it. One of my biggest pieces of advice for parents is keep your kids in the gaming system. So if they are playing on a Nintendo Switch or they are playing on a PlayStation or an Xbox and within a game and they want to communicate with people, keep them in that game. The video game community and industry is incredibly careful and thoughtful about how they approach kids' online safety and using AI technology and other tools to make sure nothing inappropriate is being said or being done on these platforms. Once your kids leave a game site and go to an adjacent platform, whether that's a Discord or a WhatsApp or, another social media account, there's no visibility, especially when those channels are encrypted, on what your kids are saying, and the video game companies aren't able to keep an eye on and make sure your kids are safe in those chats. So as you begin to have conversations with your kids about can they interact with strangers, what does that interaction look like? What I have told my kids is if someone ever, you don't know them in real life, ever tries to get you off the gaming platform and into another site, that is a red flag. That is a problem because people know. So that is the person that I would mute, block, report. All of those functions exist in most games. Tell your kids to stay on the gaming platform. That is where they will be most safe when they're playing with strangers and other people.
Aubrey, we touched on a little bit in the beginning, what kids are asking for the holidays, which, as you said, is video games. But tell me what exactly that we know that kids and maybe certain age groups are looking for. I know from being a kid at one point myself, not too long ago, right? But when I was younger, I really wanted like the Nintendo and Pokemon and all that kind of stuff. But as I got older, I transitioned into PlayStation for a little bit and then got into the PC world, the desktop gaming world. So definitely different age groups are interested in different things here.
I love it. You are a true gamer. Video games have changed a lot. And one evolution in gaming that I think surprises a lot of people is that more and more games are free to play. And that means you can create an account and get online and start playing games without having to go out and buy that physical cartridge. I was talking to someone else about this the other day, and she said, it's so sad there aren't games anymore. And I said, when's the last time you bought a DVD? When's the last time we went and bought a CD? Like, we consume media differently now. This isn't just a video game thing. More and more games, you download them directly to your console, or you can stream them on your PC, or you can download an app on your smartphone. And that's how we're playing games. Two of the most popular games kids are playing are Roblox and Fortnite, and those are free to play. But within those games, as well as other games, there are in-game purchases. That means your kids can buy additional characters. They can buy what's called skins, which is basically like a costume for your character. There's accessories. There are different weapons if they're playing, fighter games or battle games. So chances are, if your kids are asking for video game related items and they play either of those games, the number one thing they want is in-game currency. They want gift cards to be able to play those games. So that's the number one thing we see that kids want. Number two is a console. So if you don't yet have an Xbox, a PS5, or a Switch 2, that's the other thing kids want. Some kids still want the original game, an actual one game. This is the game that I want to play. And so just make sure if your kids are asking for a specific game, you search up that ESRB rating and it confirm that it's appropriate for the age of that kid.
And when it comes to those specific games, right, there's some that are only for certain consoles or on the computer, and then there's some that are cross-platform. You mentioned Roblox, you mentioned Fortnite. Just explain to everybody that for those sort of games, those for like Roblox and Fortnite, you don't need to have the same console as your friend does. So parents know that, so they don't have to buy the $600 gaming console if they can't afford that right now, and just how there is that overlap here in the gaming community.
Yeah, that has been such a cool evolution of games. So it used to be that if you wanted to play this game and it was published for Nintendo, you had to have that version of the Nintendo and that specific Nintendo cartridge, or the Xbox and that specific Xbox disc that you had to physically put in. There are now games that are cross-platform games, meaning if my son has a Nintendo Switch and your daughter has a tablet, they can play together if they get on at the same time and they share each other's accounts. So I have really loved a lot of the changes to the video game industry have made video games more accessible for more people, and there's less income disparity in who gets to play games and who gets to take advantage of games. So of course, my kids are spoiled. I work in the industry. We have all three consoles. My boys build their own gaming PCs. It is lovely. We have a great time playing games as a family at my house. But if you already have a smartphone or a tablet, or you have, an older generation game, your kids can still play some of the most popular games with their friends without parents, as you said, having to go buy a new device. And you don't have to spend a ton of money. Roblox or Fortnite or another sort of in-game currency gift card can go a really, really long way on one of these free-to-play games and make it a very, very special Christmas for the kid in your life.
Going back to the building your computer angle, it's pretty tough. My friends are in that IT space, so I had her. She came over and like built mine for me for this last month here.
It's a good friend to have.
Yeah, I was like, can I get you something? Like, do you want dinner? Or just, no, happy to build it. I'm like, oh,
Aw.
okay. I
No,
don't know how to
my
start
kids
this.
build their own gaming PCs, and so they have strong opinions about their sound cards and, graphic cards and what is everything going to be, and they can customize it and make it for their game, and everything's colorful and cool, and my kids are very cool.
It's nice to be able to say that about your kids, right?
Yeah.
My mom takes pictures of the TV when I'm on TV and sends them to me when I'm on for my
Oh,
reports. So parents love to
parents are always
talk about their
proud.
kids. Oh yeah.
Anthony, my favorite statistic that we got when talking to kids this year about what they want for Christmas is we also asked them, do they wish mom and dad or parents spent more time playing games with them? And the answer is a resounding yes. The younger the kids are, that higher that number is. So for our littles, 8 and under, 3 and 4, over 75% want their parents to sit down and play video games with them. But even older kids, teenagers, 13 to 18, nearly 50% say they wish their parents played more games with them. So if you are feeling disconnected from your kids right now, if you wish you knew what they were doing, they want to play with you. So, out of all the advice I've given today, really my best advice is turn game time into family time. Sit down. That's how you know what your kids are playing, who they're interacting with. But I have found that it's really fun to let your kids teach you about their interests, teach you how to do things. So many games are co-op or cooperative games. So you can work together, strategize, figure out solutions, solve problems, battle the bad guys, beat that boss level, and make a lot of fun family memories this holiday season.
And not every game is super crazy or has a lot of buttons to it. I remember when I was a kid, Mario Kart DS, we all played together.
Yeah.
And that was like on the Wii, my mom could handle that one, as she would say, and she would have a fun time. And it's so easy to get caught up in our jobs and everything else going on. And now I'm not a parent, but you give the child their console or their tablet, we always hear, right? The iPad children, and that kind of raises them or deals with that part of, I have so much else going on in my life. Here's something to fill that void, as horrible as that may sound sometimes, but it's nice to just, I know when I was a kid, I loved when playing Mario Kart with my parents, and it was
I
a simple
loved
game.
playing games,
And yeah,
with my family and my parents. And kids today still want to play games, with their family and their parents. And as much as we still break out the physical Yahtzee and Monopoly and Uno and we play those games, my family also sits down and we play Mario Kart. We play Donkey Kong Bonanza. We play all these games together, and it's so much fun. That's how you make memories. You laugh, you tease each other. Big brother's teasing little sisters, and everyone's happy that mom can't win. And so it's just a lot of fun. And the other thing I'd remind parents is, we worry sometimes about screen time, but more and more evidence is showing that not all screen time is created equal. When you play video games, you're not doom scrolling. Algorithms aren't feeding you content. You're actually exercising your brain. Doctors are recommending that older people play video games for the cognitive benefits and to fight off dementia and other brain diseases. And so your kids can experience those advantages of play. We teach resilience. Video games teach resilience and strategy. You read more when you play video games. Kids who play video games learn how to read. And so there's all of these benefits from video game play as opposed to other forms of screen time. So you don't have to be as nervous as a parent. And if you're worried about those online features, user-to-user interactions, simply use those parental controls or sit down and play with your kids, and then you'll know who's talking to them, try and talk to them, and you can adjust the parental controls as needed.
I know my parents were worried about how much I used to play video games, which is very fair. But now I look at screens all day.
And they
for
must be
work.
so proud of you. See, look at you. Look at what you've accomplished, Anthony.
I stare into blinding lights in the middle of the night or the early morning, and my eyesight is still, it's okay. It's okay. So
We're all doing great.
before we go, we do have a little bit more time, but just give me a real quick checklist again of everything we talked about, maybe for parents to go through in their head when they're picking up that console, bringing it home, helping their kids set it up, just things to remember and to really pay attention to.
Yep. Number one, ESRB ratings. Make sure you know the ratings of the games that your kids are asking for, and make sure that the games you're getting, you feel comfortable with the content that's in those games. E for everyone, E10 plus for everyone 10 and older, T for teen, M for mature. Those are basically R-rated video games. So stay away from those ones if you have littles at home. 2, Set up parental controls. Virtually every device you can play games on has parental controls. So if you're on a console, if you're on a tablet, make sure you set up those parental controls. This allows you to limit or block user-to-user communication. It allows you to limit or block in-game spending. It allows you to set up or restrict specific times of day they're allowed to play or not allowed to play. And you can also set up so they don't even see, they can't access games that aren't rated appropriately. You can use those ESRB ratings for that. We've talked a little bit about cross-platform games. So Fortnite, Roblox, if your kids are on that, if you set up an account for them on those games, even if they go to a friend's house and they log into that account on a different device than you have, your parental controls follow that account. So make sure that you set up, if your kids are on Fortnite or another Epic game or Roblox, that you're using those platform controls and not just the device controls, because that user account will follow them whenever they check in anywhere. And then finally, play with your kids. Talk to them about good digital behavior. Let them know if they're allowed to interact with strangers, what they should do if they interact with someone that makes them uncomfortable. Make sure they know that they can report, mute, block someone. They can tell a trusted adult like mom, dad, grandma, grandpa about what they encountered. But if, like I said, I've got a young daughter at home, I'm not ready for her to play with strangers just yet. And so my parental controls make it so she can only play with the people we approve. But ultimately, the message is that games are good. We all deserve to have more fun. We all deserve to play a little bit more. So pick up that control, turn game time into family time this holiday season, and happy gaming.
Those microtransactions, look out for those. That conversation is always important. Watch the credit card. I know when I was still in college and didn't have a lot of bills, League of Legends got a fair chunk of change out of me out of skins. So just
well, I'm sure Riot appreciates that. But what I will say is that no kid I know, under the age of 16 or so has a credit card. And you can't spend money in games unless you put a credit card in. So don't just give your kid a credit card carte blanche. You wouldn't do that at the mall. You wouldn't do it at Target, right? So don't just give your kid a credit card and let them put it online. But if you do set it up that way, make sure you use those parental controls so they have to ask. But like I said, the number one thing kids want this holiday season is in-game currency. And if you give them a specific gift card for, $25, $50, whatever it may be, they can't spend more than that. So I think gift cards are a safer bet for those microtransactions and to keep you from having those surprise charges on your credit card at any point.
Yeah, no more holiday surprises with how crazy everything has been recently.
Yeah. You're just going to want gift cards.
Real quick before we go, when it comes to the Entertainment Software Association or yourself, Aubrey, where can people find out more? Or maybe if you have anything else you want to share with them, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can always go to the ESA.com. My contact information is actually on it. But more importantly for parents is the ESRB website. They have a great microsite called parentaltools.org. And that site gives you information about the ESRB ratings, but it also has details on how to set up parental controls on literally any platform, any device. So instead of you having to go to the Nintendo website, the PlayStation website, the Microsoft website, the Roblox website, it's all in one place at parentaltools.org, as well as a parent's guide on how to have some of those tough conversations with your kids about screen limits, screen time, talking to strangers online. So if I were to go anywhere before bringing video games into my home, parentaltools.org is the site I'd check out.
Well, thank you very much, Aubrey, for taking this time with me to sit down and talk about everything parents should know about getting a game this season and the holidays and all that safety information. And we're going to stop it right here and let you listen to the Bits and Boards jingle. So we'll catch you on the next episode.